Welcome to the One Advantage podcast, exploring the intersections of peer power, culture, and agility. Your hosts, Mike Richardson, Jason Richmond, and Leo Bottari, co-founders of the One Advantage community of practice and advantage peer groups. For more information, please visit us at the One Advantage podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another podcast from the One Advantage. I'm on my own today. Leo and Jason have the day off because we wanted to make a little bit more room for me to have a great conversation with one of my very dear friends who's joining us today as our guest, Steve Verberg. He is a co-owner of Dale Carnegie Orange County. He's an author, speaker, consultant, coach, and corporate trainer. And I'm delighted to have him here today to explore our topic today of stepping up to agile leadership and adaptive management. Steve, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Mike. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here, my friend. And everybody, let me tell you a little bit. I am a career-long advocate of Dale Carnegie, all the way back for more than 25 years when I first became a CEO of a turnaround business back in 1994, 95, 96. I knew I needed help, Steve, and I was in the UK at that time, and I went looking for help, and I came across the local Dale Carnegie franchisee, a gentleman called Jack Ross. And we launched a breakthrough program that was a combination of some of the foundational courses that Dale Carnegie offers and some custom stuff on top of that. And we just had a fantastic experience. So I love the work that you do, Steve.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Tell us a little bit more. So you're the co-owner of the Orange County office of Dale Carnegie. How long have you been doing that? How long has Dale Carnegie been doing what it does? And tell us a bit more about you.
Well, Dale Carnegie is hitting about 110 years here of working with people. And
that's amazing.
I'm not quite that old. So I've been involved in Dale Carnegie. I started as a trainer back in 2004, took over the Orange County office in 2008. Wow. So I had definitely a few roller coasters along the way with the bubble burst there in 2010 and then again with the recession the
COVID
pandemic. So definitely had to use some agile skills to get through those times. So today Dale Carnegie is in almost 90 countries, 30 languages, a global organization that really focuses in on the soft skills, right? Leadership skills, communication, human relations, team building, presentation, sales, customer service. And so with all the constant change that's going on, obviously, there's a need for people to communicate and to relate to one another in a much better fashion. It's more relevant today than ever before.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So I couldn't agree more. And everybody, in the work that I do with agility, and we'll talk more about the sort of strategic alliance that Steve and I have formed together and with the rest of the One Advantage community. All of the foundational stuff that Steve just mentioned it's all a prerequisite for agility. You can't attempt to be agile if you don't have those foundation stones of leadership and communication and employee engagement and emotional intelligence and resilience and all of those other things in place. And Steve, in some ways, I sort of summarize my career in 3 words. The first word is leadership. I started my career working on offshore oil and gas drilling rigs as a technical guy, and then I did an MBA in the UK for 2 years, and I was committed to going into British industry with leadership and trying to promote good leadership in British industry. And that's what I did. And that's when I ran into Jack Ross and Dale Carnegie in the UK, and we launched that leadership training program. And then I added the second word on the front of that, which was breakthrough leadership, because what Jack kind of introduced us to, Jack Ross, the Dale Carnegie franchisee, was this concept of what he called a breakthrough program that just went great. So that was like a combination of the foundational stuff and some custom stuff on top. What kinds of programs do you end up doing for your clients and prospects and customers in Orange County?
Yeah, well, as you know, because I worked with you when you were over CEO at one of our customers here, that we did some customized leadership training for you, which, by the way, for those of you that don't know, Mike is one of the rare breed of our customers that won the leadership program twice. Most companies don't even win it once, but he won it twice with two different companies in two different countries. So there you go.
You are too kind. So everybody there, I'm in good company there.
There you go.
There is this fantastic annual International Leadership Award that Dale Carnegie recognizes some of its customers with. And exactly back in 1999, Steve, we put together this breakthrough program with Jack Ross in the UK, and it had gone so well that several things happened, everybody. Number one, we turned the business around. If you remember, I told you it was my first job as a CEO was a turnaround situation. We were on very thin ice. We turned the business around. It went so well that the corporation asked me to merge my business with another business across the street that they also owned, which I did. And we rolled them into the breakthrough program. That continued to go so well in sort of a second gear that I got promoted to run the aerospace division, not just the business unit I was running. And I started flying Jack all over the world to my different business units and working with the local Dale Carnegie franchisee. And all of that went so well that we won the International Leadership Award from Dale Carnegie in 1999. And I was invited to go to the annual Dale Carnegie convention I think it was in Seattle in December 1999, Steve. And I got to make, one of the keynote presentations on the final morning of the conference and sort of tell the story. And Steve, you've seen a lot of the agility stuff that 20 years later, I now, take out to clients and prospects and customers. Back in 1999, when I made that presentation, that was the very first incarnation of the skeletal framework and model that has fleshed out over the course of 20 years. So we go back a long way, Steve.
There you go. There you go.
And go ahead.
I was going to say it was a pleasure to watch you work at the local company here.
Yeah.
Just to see you bringing the leadership team together, and then obviously the work we did with you. I'm still jealous of the Ducks.
So 20 years later, everybody, 3 years, I spent 3 years working quite extensively with a client locally in Orange County. That's where Steve and I met, because as he mentioned, we won the International Leadership Award again for a large program that we put together, and Steve and his team delivered a fantastic job. Again, a combination of the foundational course elements and some of the custom stuff on top. And we won the award again. And as a result, Jason Richmond, who you know is a co-founder of the One Advantage, came into town to present the award, which is where I met Jason for the first time. And then Steve and I started to talk about agility and all of these great things. And that was the beginnings of us forming a strategic relationship, Steve, and helping you take agility programs and offerings to your prospects and your customers. When you're interacting with your customers locally in Orange County, I mean, what kinds of ways are they articulating their agility challenge and their agility needs?
Yeah, that's a big question, Mike, because it's so many different ways, and I'll give you a few examples.
Yep.
Talking to one of the large hospitals in Orange County, they basically communicated they're on change saturation mode with all the government regulations. It's daily and almost hourly changes that they have to deal with. So that's one example. Another healthcare organization we were working with, they grew actually from 20 employees to 150 employees
Wow.
during COVID. So that obviously brings a lot of need for agility and change management as well. Then, of course, you have the supply chain issues all our manufacturing customers are dealing with, where they're not able to get supplies. They have angry customers. They have deadlines that they're missing. So there's a lot of people that are dealing with that change. Then you have the restaurant industry where you got hangry people coming in, right? They're hungry and they're angry, and those are the worst kind of people that you have to deal with as a customer service professional.
Yeah.
And then, of course, right now there's this huge thing called the Great Resignation, which is causing, employee retention issues, and how do we attract employees? So how do we shift and manage and navigate that without enough resources? And then some of our government and city customers, they also are dealing with a lot of angry people just because of delayed deliverables, because of their, again, short staffed like everyone else.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different things that are coming to the forefront because of everything that's going on in the world, which requires us to be more agile in how we approach our business and how we communicate with our customers, our employees, and so forth. So it's a big topic.
Yeah. And that's why everybody, we've begun to lean into some program offerings that we're calling Stepping Up to Agile Leadership and Adaptive Management. That really is the definition of agility. It's the ability to adapt to these rapidly changing circumstances that Steve has articulated there, whilst out executing the expectations of our various groups of stakeholders, our clients, our customers, of course, number one, staying ahead of their expectations, our employees, number two, so that we don't suffer from the Great Resignation, or at least we mitigate that impact. Our vendors and our supply chain, number three, so that we don't suffer too many challenges there, and we continue to get the best service and the best price that we need to be competitive. And then, of course, not least of all, our shareholders and our debt holders, so that we continue to get their support. So it's the ability to adapt to these rapidly changing circumstances and staying ahead of the expectations of our different groups of shareholders, different groups of stakeholders in this accelerating world of disruptive change, like Steve has begun to articulate. And there's an acronym for that, isn't there, Steve, that we know well, and we're beginning to introduce to your customers and your clients and your prospects. And the acronym, everybody, is VUCA, VUCA, which stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. VUCA. And it's a military term that came out of the military colleges. When we started dropping special forces behind enemy lines, they went into a VUCA environment, and they had to learn, new levels of agility to cope. But now VUCA is used widely in the commercial world. If you Google the phrase, the acronym VUCA, VUCA, you'll be buried, because it's in wide use now. And Steve was articulating the different flavors, the different colors, the different kinds of VUCA coming at us. And often, Steve, people think that, VUCA's new. Clearly it's not. We've always been in the face of disruptive change. It's not new. If you think back to the railroad system, was VUCA on previous forms of transport. Rolling out the automotive freeway system was VUCA on the railroad system. Rolling out the aviation system was VUCA on the road system. and the internet was VUCA on the aviation system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not that VUCA is new. It's not. It's that the time compression, the time lapse between VUCA has trended towards zero.
Right.
We're in a flow of accelerated obsolescence. There isn't any time lapse anymore. You never get any breathing room before the next phase of VUCA is coming upon us. And it sounds like you're hearing an expression of that from all of your customers in some way, shape, or form, Steve.
Oh yeah, yeah, and one of the conversations we're having a lot with these CEOs and executive teams is, going back to management guru Peter Drucker when he said, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." Right?
Yeah.
Do we have a culture where we can adapt and change as quickly as it needs to happen? That agile culture, and we're finding that a lot of organizations. And I gave you a few different industries when I was talking before, but across all industries, no is the answer. They don't have an agile culture. They're very rigid. And so how do you go in there and help them create that culture? Because it's critical for survival today. Yeah. And a lot of them don't see that. And so they're suffering from the symptoms that happen when you're a rigid, no, we're only going to do this. This is the way we're going to do things. And they don't have the ability to adapt on the fly.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so insightful, everybody, in that obviously larger companies, corporations struggle to be agile enough because they tend to default towards bureaucracy and rigidity and all of those kinds of things. On the flip side, startups and smaller companies, mid-market companies, often think they're naturally agile, and they're categorically not. They are naturally frenetic, hair on fire, seat of the pants.
There you go.
And so either of those two options is categorically not agile. Agile is something that kind of lives in the middle. And these are the things that Steve is beginning to explore with some of the custom programs that we're putting together. And the challenge with agility, of course, is that we are surrounded now with an exploding universe of inspiration about agility. I mean, you can barely pick up a magazine and there isn't an article, often a cover article, about agility in some way, shape, or form. There's an army of agile software development evangelists walking the planet, advocating their particular methodology. All of the big consultancy houses now have agility practices, and they're publishing books and research and all of that kind of stuff. And many, many, many of the classical training organizations that are peers to Dale Carnegie are trying to hitch their wagon to the agile train. They're putting a new paint job on their classical stuff. And this was the conversation that Steve and I had, and Jason and I had, months ago, years ago, where, we looked at each other and said, let's not let Dale Carnegie do that. Let's help the Dale Carnegie franchisees, and starting with Steve in particular, let's help them lean into real agile, true agile, not fake agile, not faux agile. And let's help them lean into really helping their clients and prospects and customers understand what it really takes to do real agile. Because it's complicated, isn't it, Steve? This isn't a magic wand, overnight sensation, one hit wonder. This is a complicated thing to lean into.
It is. And it's a different mindset, where, and we'll just use one example of having meetings, right? So people have meeting fatigue right now. They have Zoom fatigue or what have you. They don't like meetings, but in an agile universe, you actually have more meetings than you did before. They're just a
more agile
meeting, right? They're more agile. Those Scrum meetings, right? Those morning meetings. So people don't understand, because they think maybe we need to get rid of the meetings we're having to be more agile, where actually, no, you need to have a different type of meeting, and you need to have more of them.
Yeah, Steve is getting into some of the some of the meat that we get into, everybody. And there are many myths about agility. And in fact, we'll give you the link in the show notes here. Steve and his team have put up a portal at their website, which you can find at ocdalecarnegie.com/agile-leadership-resources. We'll also put that link in the show notes so you can find it very easily. If you go over there, we put up a white paper that I wrote for Steve and the team called The 5 Myths of Agility. And that will explore some of the myths that Steve is starting to get into, and go and download that. I think you'll find it very revealing. And one of the myths is that, when you get busier, when you have less time, when you're juggling more, the natural tendency that people have is they want to meet less. And what they don't understand is what Agile leaders understand is when I get busier, when I have less time, when I have more to triage, I meet more, not less, but not typical meetings. I meet in a very agile way, agile meetings, and understanding the mysteries and the magic of agile meetings is at the core and the heart of developing enterprise agility, which, by the way, is complex. I mean, and by the way, most people massively oversimplify trying to be agile, and they don't understand that, look, there's the sort of totality of an agility operating system, which you've got to sort of lean into. And Steve and the team are putting programs together to let you sort of go at it progressively, take some bite-sized chunks, get the snowball rolling gradually, gently, be agile with agile. You can't boil the ocean all of a sudden. You've got to lean into it progressively and gradually and sort of begin your journey up the on-ramp to becoming more agile. And there's another great white paper over at that same link, ocdalecarnegie.com/agile-leadership-resources. The link will be in the show notes, called The 5 Roles of Everyday Agile Leaders Before, During, and After COVID. And I think you'll enjoy that. It introduces you to some of the attributes of agility to change your relationship with that you probably never got trained in. Things like chaos and the word triage that I just mentioned. And Steve, for me, one of the biggest dangers that we face now is, as people sort of wipe the sweat off their brow of having, hopefully in some way, shape, or form, got through COVID, they may well imagine that they're agile now by definition. We just survived COVID. We must be agile. We're good to go, right? Whereas no, there's a lot more to agility than that.
Agreed. I think with just everything you just mentioned there, especially the fact that you have to be comfortable in chaos and have to be able to triage what's going on. One of the favorite quotes I heard you say during the last Agile webinar we did was you quoted a Navy SEAL, I think it was Bob Schultz, and you said, under pressure, we don't rise to the occasion, we sink to our preparation and training.
Yes,
if I got it right.
Yeah, that's right.
That helps people to understand the fact that this is something you have to prepare for. You have to make it a daily regiment, because in Dale Carnegie, we talk about the cycle of development, and we talk about the fact that whatever you practice daily becomes your habit when pressure is on, when you get when you get those angry customers in front of you, when all of a sudden your supply chain breaks down and you don't get what you need to do the deliverables that you need to get for your customers. So you have to have that training consistently. So in Dale Carnegie, Mr. Carnegie said, people support a world they help to create, and they support processes that help them succeed. And I think the agility is those processes. That's the process side of how do we survive in constant chaos and change. And I will say that I don't believe that the change is going to slow down. I think it's going to continue to progress, even though things are kind of going back to normal. they're still not normal, and regulations are changing almost daily. Like I said, for some of our customers out there, they're dealing with that change saturation I mentioned earlier, and they're definitely in fatigue mode with as far as how do we manage all of this and keep our people, right? We don't want people quitting and leaving because they're stressed out in this constant chaos that's going on. So how do we develop that culture so that people are comfortable in that constant change?
Exactly. And everybody, what we love to do to help people learn real agile, true agile, not faux agile, not fake agile, is really help you understand what that word means in multiple different ways. And when you put the word agile in front of anything, what core concepts have to come with it? So we talked about agile meetings a few moments ago. Well, when you put the word agile in front of meetings, what core concepts come with it? And where I like to go, everybody, and Steve knows this well with all the work that we're doing together, is I like to go to the bottom line of agile composure. When you put the word agile in front of the word composure, what core concepts have to come with it? And when you're able to achieve a degree of agile composure as a leader, as a team, as an organization, as a business, as an enterprise, then you're able to sort of stay calm, cool, confident, and collected in the face of VUCA, confident that, look, we've developed the capabilities, we've developed the capacities. With a bit of luck here and there, it'll all be fine. It'll be better than fine, actually. It'll be good. It'll be great. And back to what Steve said, indeed, the Navy SEALs say, you don't rise to the occasion. You sink to the level of your training, your practice, and your preparation. Or another way of saying the same thing, which I love, is when you need a friend, it's too late to make one. If you haven't made friends with agility, when that next new and novel VUCA comes around, you're in trouble. And that's one of the key things, everybody, as we wipe the sweat off our brow from COVID. What you've got to understand is agility isn't about just being ready for the next COVID. Agility is about being ready for the next thing that you haven't even anticipated yet. Think backwards. We've dealt with 9/11. That was new and novel. We dealt with the Great Recession. That was new and novel. We dealt with COVID. That was new and novel. Guess what's coming next? Something else new and novel that we can't specifically prepare for because we don't know what it's going to be. It's more being generally prepared, developing the agile composure that whatever comes next, we will have the capacities and capabilities already built in. We'll have made friends with that. And of course, also recognizing that you experience VUCA every single day at a more microscopic level. And that change saturation, you're trying to juggle so many things simultaneously. You're trying to drive so many change programs simultaneously. If you're not careful, you are burning out a little bit. You're in the red zone all the time. How do you, and your people in particular, and they're starting to have second thoughts about their commitment to the company. How do you find ways to get that needle back out of the red zone? If you can just come back out of the red zone by 10%, 20%, it can make a world of difference. I'm having a blast exploring all of this with you, Steve, and I'm really excited to support how Dale Carnegie Orange County can serve its local customers.
Yeah, I think what you just said really highlights why we partnered together, right? Because Dale Carnegie helps people become the type of leader people want to follow, and agility gives them the processes to lead once they do. And so when we talk about becoming the type of person that people want to follow, from the context of what you just said, right? When you need a friend, it's too late to make one, right? So Dale Carnegie wrote the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And so there's a foundation of 30 principles that actually help you do that. The first set of those principles help you develop those stronger relationships, which builds trust and cooperation, or trust instead of indifference, right? If things change and pressure's on and people are indifferent to you, you're not going to get much done. Well, if you have that trust, that foundation of rapport and relation, then you can move to the next level, which is getting willing cooperation. But if you don't have it and you're on the indifferent side, then what comes is just instead of cooperation, it's compliance. And there's a different level of buy-in and effort when people are just complying to us. And on the rapport, trust, willing cooperation side, then we can move up to the influence, right? I can influence my people and I can take charge of that chaos when it's coming at us, and really lead the organization effectively if I have all that in place. Well, if I'm on the indifference compliance side, then when it hits the fan, I get resistance, right? People don't want to deal with it because it's not new, or it's not what they're used to. It's new, it's different, it's not something we want to do with. So really building those leaders up, not only with the culture of how do I make my culture agile, but also how do I change the way I lead and approach people?
Exactly.
So I think it's a great marriage between the two organizations and what we do.
Yeah, and think of it as a pyramid, everybody. You've got the foundation stones of the great Dale Carnegie courses and programs that they've done, as you heard, for over 100 years, and I used for over 25 years. Then you've got some of the custom things that fit on top of that, along the lines that Steve was articulating, and emotional intelligence and all of that. And then agility is kind of the pyramid on top. It isn't just reframing things. It is truly putting that true, real, definitive agility, capability, capacity on top of the whole thing. But you've got to have these other layers in place as a prerequisite to give you those solid foundations. And everybody, if you're listening to this, and of course you're outside of the Orange County region, which you quite possibly will be, more regionally, more nationally, even internationally, of course, never forget that we've got the One Advantage community of practice and Advantage peer groups. Regardless, go take a look at the portal that Steve and the team have put together at ocdalecarnegie.com/agile-leadership-resources. We'll put that link in the show notes. Already there are some white papers, as we mentioned. There's another webinar coming up. It doesn't matter where you're located. We'd love to have you in that webinar. There's some seminars coming up. There's a peer group experience coming up. There's free consultations. We've got in motion an opportunity assessment that we're developing together, some simple self-assessments you can do, some infographics, blogs, and so much more, all helping you step up to agile leadership and adaptive management. And it's just great to be exploring all of that with you and the team, Steve. We're really, really, really excited about what we can do together. Final thoughts for our listeners, Steve, before we sign off here. What would you like to say to them?
I guess the final thought is in talking to a lot of our customers is that we have to take a proactive stance when it comes to change, right? Don't wait for change to hit you and then be reactive, because that's when you're in trouble. So really take a proactive approach to it, and then you'll be ready for it and you'll be able to succeed.
Yeah, thanks so much for your time today, Steve. Everybody, go and check out that little portal that we've been mentioning. Also, you can always find us at www.theoneadvantage.com. Come on over, join the community, check us out. Thanks so much for being here, Steve. I've had a blast working with Dale Carnegie for the last 25 years, and I look forward to the next 25. Come join us at the next podcast, everybody. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for listening to the One Advantage podcast. If you liked this episode, please consider helping us by rating us wherever you listen, spreading the word, having us as a guest on your podcast or webinar, and mentioning us in social media. Find us at the One Advantage podcast, where you can get more information about us and this episode. Thanks again for listening, and we look forward to more great episodes to come.